Let's start.
We've already started.
That's true. That's how the podcast starts.
That's how it is, yeah.
By the way, what question are you sick and tired of answering?
One is, when you started on The Sopranos, did you know that it was going to be this big, giant success? I've been asked that a zillion times. What do you think the end of The Sopranos, what do you think that means? That I've been asked a gazillion times. Those two I've been asked more than anything else.
Do you answer the same way each time?
Pretty much.
Do you roll your eyes?
No, because I don't begrudge someone from I mean, there's a reason why people ask that, because I guess people want to know that, right?
Yeah.
But if you've done your research, you know I've answered that 800 times.
Okay, totally true.
Which you don't always have to do research. I don't know. I mean, I don't begrudge that. But I have heard it an awful lot.
What question has nobody asked you that you're like, why doesn't anybody ask me this?
Well, what's interesting is this is very, very common. As an actor, right, which is primarily what I do. I do other things too, but primarily I'm known as an actor. It's mostly what I've done as an adult. You very, 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 very rarely, almost never get asked about acting, which is what we do.
About the process, your
about
process.
Acting. What is acting? What's it like to act? What was it like to act on the? You know what I mean? They ask you everything about what's so and so like. Well, how is he to work with? What was it like? What are your fans? Do your fans confuse you with your character? What do people say to you when they see it? You know, all that stuff.
What was it like to play Christopher Moltisanti?
Christopher was.
This is an acting question.
Yeah.
Let me be clear.
Christopher, as an actor, it was phenomenal because number one, it was an exceptionally written show. So the depth and complexities and intricacies of the storytelling were just an actor's dream, right? So, and the characters were all so thorough and drawn out. But Christopher, to isolate him, had so much going on, so much light and dark, so many polarities. He was a striver in a lot of ways to be better than who he was in a way. Yet he had his demons, you know. I mean, to play those physical states of drug addiction, being high on drugs, withdrawing from drugs, wanting to take drugs, being in a relationship where he was in love with someone and wanted to have a good relationship, yet wasn't able to, really be functional in that relationship for a number of reasons. Trying to be a good mobster and rise up the ranks in the profession that he had chosen. Trying to be a screenwriter or even an actor, but what I admired about him was that he was willing to do the work. A lot of people say, my life is so interesting, it'll make a great movie. My life is so weird, I should be a writer, and he sat his ass in the chair and wrote, which, takes a lot of work and commitment and confidence to some degree. From my point of view, he was based on someone I know. This person I've never told that to, and nobody knows who he is. I've never told anybody who he is. He's a living human being. When I read the script, I thought he'd be a good prototype. He did have a little bit of dabbling with both show business and organized crime, but not really a mobster. But there was some emotional component to him that I always found fascinating, because he almost sometimes was like a bad actor in life. Like everything was too much or over the top, or took him, and I was like, it's almost amazing that a human being, this is their natural state. And I took that for Christopher in the pilot and created him around that. Once we got to the next episodes, then it kind of had an engine of its own momentum in a way. And I didn't consciously think about him or try to think about how my friend would act in the situation. It was just Christopher then.
Okay, so he doesn't know? He has
Nobody
no
knows.
idea to this day?
No, I don't think
so. Do you
I
talk
hope
to him
not.
currently?
No.
So it would never be a situation where you would talk about
I would
Why
never
didn't
admit
you
it.
tell him? Why? Why not?
I don't know. I don't want him to think that he's owed something. I don't want him.
Yeah, 'cause can you imagine if he thinks?
I don't want
if
him
he
to
knew-
think to be resentful. I don't want him to feel like, it's it's because it's not a judgment on him. It's just, it's just as an actor and artist, you look at humanity and try to interpret it in ways and make art out of it, right? I mean,
Right.
you as an actor, you get your raw material from other people, really, from humans.
So, are
human
you
behavior.
a big observer of human behavior of people? Like, are you always kind of checking them out and analyzing them?
I think it's become second nature. I mean, I started acting school after high school. I went to acting school here in the city.
What
Actually,
acting school was it?
Lee Strasberg, but then
Okay.
my teacher opened a studio right on the corner, 46th and 8th, and I was there for many years.
Oh, that's literally right on
It's
the
gone
corner.
now, the building, but we were there, and being in New York at that time, or any time really, and being around so many people, so many different types of people, is great for an actor, and I think probably any kind of artist, especially like
Right.
in drama or movies or anything
So
like that.
how did you then, because you were talking about acting, how did you were talking about the complexity of Christopher. So how did you get yourself into that mode? Like, how did you do that? What did you do to prepare before you were shooting?
like I said,
Besides the guy.
Besides the guy,
Yeah.
guy is a lot, because like once you define the character and find it, right? So now, you get the next episode. It's instinctual, right? It's like picking up a guitar. You already know how to play it, right? You don't have to learn how to play the guitar every time you pick it up. You
Yeah.
just play it. Before you know how, you have to learn the chords. It's like playing a song. You have to learn the chords. You have to learn the progression. You have to tune the guitar. You have to buy the string. Once you do that, well, now you're given another song, and then you know how to play the chord. You have a facility towards it, right?
Yeah. So are you a serious person, do you think, generally?
Sometimes, not always. Sometimes I'm very ridiculous.
Are you a ridiculous person?
Sometimes too, yeah.
Well, like, when are you
I
ridiculous?
don't
What
know,
do you
sense
do?
of humor. I find, silly things funny very often.
Like what?
Like American Dad. It's my favorite show. TV
Really?
show.
I
By
love it.
far.
Okay.
By far.
What else?
American Dad's pretty friggin' awesome. What else?
You're sticking with American Dad
I
only?
love it. I love Stan Smith and Jeff Fisher.
Do you watch Schitt's
and,
Creek?
No. I watched the first one. I didn't like it.
No, you're
Should
not
I
going
stick
to
with
like it. Yeah. I had a friend tell me about 2 weeks ago. She said, I think it actually took 6 episodes, she told me.
Really?
So at the beginning, I'm like, first of all, I'm like, this is not for me.
6 episodes.
But they're 22
Seinfeld,
minutes.
I saw him do part of a short set at a benefit 2 weeks ago, and he went into this whole thing. He's like, yeah, everyone's got the show, my show. It's like, you're not going to like it till season 4. You got to get through season 3, and then season 4, you're really going to connect,
You just have to be in pain for like...
Yeah, for 3 seasons, but the season 4 is going to blow your mind. I watched the first one. I love Eugene Levy. I have since I'm a little kid from
So funny.
Second City stuff. Bobby Bittman, he used to do this stand-up comedian character, Mr. Showbiz guy, which was just out of control. He was so great on that. And then the Christopher Guest movies, like in Waiting for Guffman. He's
Of course, but...
But
they're
Schitt's
all-
Creek
and-
is great, huh?
So, yeah, I
gotta
didn't like
stick
it at
with
first either. I was like, oh,
Yeah, I
this is
watched
really
the first
not
one, I
my
was
show.
like,
Right. This is not my kind of thing. The shtick, it's not my thing. But just because my friend Christy had said 6 episodes, and they're 22 minutes each.
Yeah.
So it's easy.
Okay.
By 5, I was so grateful that I had discovered this show, because every character is really... Catherine O'Hara, come on.
Yeah,
so
she's amazing.
funny.
I know,
And
she's funny.
Eugene's son, Dan Levy, is so funny too. And so is the girl who plays the daughter. Go back to it,
I got to
please.
go back to it. Okay.
By 5, I'm going to say until by 5, you'll be very glad.
Yeah.
So Schitt's
I
Creek.
think The Office, the original, the British one, was one of the great comedies of all time.
I never saw the
loved it
original.
so much. And then the specials, and then Ricky last Life on the Road, David Brent special that he did like 2 years ago. Just fantastic. I loved it.
So you crack up, or you like laughing out loud on your couch or something?
The Honeymooners, though, probably maybe my favorite show of all time.
Did you watch it growing up?
Oh, yeah.
And you still do now?
It's still on Channel 11 in New York, which is when we used to watch it as
Pix.
kids.
It was
yeah.
Pix, right?
It's still on that.
Do you remember this
sometimes.
with Pix? I think it was. They had this game where like you would call in and say like Pix, 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 Pix,
Yes.
Pix.
Yes,
Do you remember?
yes,
You know what I'm
yes,
talking
yes,
about?
I do.
There would be like some kind of like a video
Yeah.
game or something, and you'd have to whoever would call in would
That's
say
right.
it, and then you would try to when you'd say it, they would like get the little like Pong
That's
or something.
right.
I
I
want
do-
to say.
I do vaguely
yeah,
remember
that's
that.
when we were kids. But okay, so you
Channel
can be
11,
silly.
yeah.
Yeah, Channel 11.
And the Yankees were on Channel 11 for many years. I don't know if they still are once in a while. They have their own network, but I think once in a while they still are or something.
And the Honeymooners, you say.
Yeah. And Twilight Zone
Well, and the Twilight Zone is
was on Pix.
now on again. Do you know about this
I've
remake?
heard about it. I haven't seen it, yeah.
It's by I want to say Jordan Peele, who did Get Out. You know Key
I
and
didn't
Peele.
see it, yeah.
You didn't see Get Out?
No, I mean, I've heard of it, obviously.
Do you
but I
watch
didn't see
movies
it.
much or no?
Not a ton. Not a ton, no.
Not even at home.
Sometimes I do. Sometimes, you know.
Which ones?
The last movie I saw was Cold War. Did you see that? It was a Polish movie. It was fantastic. But the best movie of the year for me was, well, there were two, BlacKkKlansman and Can You Ever Forgive Me?
I did not see Can You Ever Forgive Me? I don't,
That might have been my favorite movie of the
wait,
year.
what was that?
That was Melissa McCarthy and Richard E. Grant. It's a true story about this.
She was like a played
Author.
serious person, right?
Yeah, it's so good. Really great.
All right, so I'll catch that. So Spike Lee, your friend Spike Lee.
Spike Lee, yeah.
What did you think about him getting the Oscar
Oh, I
but
was
not
so
getting
happy.
the Oscar?
I
But he
was-
didn't get the Oscar. He got the
He
Oscar,
did
but he
get it.
didn't get the Oscar.
What do you mean?
He got the Oscar for
screenplay.
Screenplay.
Yeah, well, that is an Oscar.
It is, but I think what he really wanted was Best Picture
Yeah, or Best Director, right?
or Best Director.
But he got an Oscar, which he
Correct.
deserves and has deserved for a long time. And I was really happy to see that. Yeah.
Because you know that he lost the Oscar for Do the Right Thing to Driving Miss Daisy. And then if we're saying he lost the Oscar, which I think he would
Said
say.
every time somebody's driving somebody, he loses.
Exactly. Green Book won.
Right, to Green Book. But he did win, so that was good. I mean, Do the Right Thing was released, what year was that, 89, 88?
I don't know.
It was before I knew him, and I had seen his first two movies. First movie I thought was brilliant. The second one I didn't like, School Days, but
Which one was the first?
She's Gotta Have It.
Oh, okay. Which is now on Netflix as
Which
a series, you realize.
which was a great, a thrilling debut. Like, you just saw this guy's genius in every frame. But Do the Right Thing had a lot, right before it was released, there was a lot of controversy because everyone was afraid it was going to incite race riots, literally, especially in New York, because there was a lot of racial tension at that time. There were some incidents where there was, I think in Bensonhurst or Bay Ridge, where these gangs of some Italian Americans beat up black kids. So there was like incidents in the city that contributed to a lot of racial tension, and it was people were really kind of worried. And I went opening night with my girlfriend at the time to see it. Not at the premiere, at the day it was released in the theaters. We went down to the Village, and you could feel like this tension in the theater. It was a pretty mixed audience, probably more white than black because it was the Village, but it was mixed. There were, it was a New York crowd, but there was this. You could feel this like tension and electricity. Like, what is this going to be? And walking out of that theater, we were more together than we were before we went in. We were more united and somehow understood each other a little more. I don't know, but I walked out and I said, if a movie can do this, that's really amazing.
Powerful, yeah.
Really powerful.
Yeah.
I'll never forget it.
That was a big movie. I didn't know there was all that tension beforehand
There
that
was
they
a
were
lot,
worried about.
yeah.
And then what happened when it actually came out? I only saw it for the first time like years later. So what happened after it
There
came out?
was, I think what I described was more, the case, that people did, and it's not a movie that offers an answer. 'Cause,
Right. It just reflects
He reflects on
society.
really 2 points of view, particularly Martin Luther King's one of nonviolence and Malcolm King and Malcolm X, by any means necessary. And, had us thinking about it.
Yeah.
And not only had us thinking, but had us really entertained. It's not only a movie that addresses something very profound and serious and difficult. It's also a lot of fun and alive. Like it's the opening credits with Rosie Perez dancing and
I can tell
Public
you something about
Enemy,
that.
and it's funny too.
So I would tell you about that opening scene. When I think I told you when I asked you to do this recently, I said I just been with Spike Lee, and well, I won't say the whole story, but you know what he told me that day? It was that he realized only years after Do the Right Thing that opening sequence with Rosie Perez dancing was basically him putting on the screen something that impacted him when he was 6 years old. Bye Bye Birdie, seeing it at Radio City Music Hall. He said basically at the beginning of Bye Bye Birdie is Anne Margaret dancing in front of the camera. And he said he had no idea that he did it, but he basically wrote that scene into Do the Right Thing.
It was always
and
there.
didn't know until years later that's where it came from.
Yeah,
Isn't that
that's
interesting?
very interesting.
And
That happens sometimes.
That does.
Because when you're
it's
young,
in your like subconscious.
you're young, you absorb things in ways that just, stay with you. And you're so impressionable. And, someone like Spike, who, is a great artist, has always been an artist, even when he was a kid.
Yeah.
So when those things are going in and staying somewhere,
It
when they
is.
really touch you,
Yeah.
Also, I imagine him being at Radio City and that whole experience, because I saw movies there as a kid too. I like going to Manhattan and being by Rockefeller Center and in Radio City on this gigantic screen in this gigantic theater. It's just like, amazing.
Well, that's what he said. He was 6, and his mother took him to see Bye Bye Birdie there, and it was the whole experience of being at Radio City.
How much we think people think about us.
Oh, that wasn't the question.
Is that what?
No, I don't think so. But that's an interesting question too.
That's what
how
we
much
just were
do other
talking
people
about.
think about us? No, that wasn't what I was saying. But that's how you interpreted it,
Yeah.
or what you heard. What do you
But
make
you
of
just
that?
got to get past that. Who cares at the end
Yeah.
of the day? Your instincts. Some people's instincts are to be liked. Some people's instincts are not to be liked. Some people just don't. I don't know. They like to be abrasive, or I don't know. But I
Yeah.
care less and less about that as I get older.
Do you feel like people have a good sense of who you are when they meet you or when they know you?
When they know me,
I don't know, is that a
what do you
weird
mean by
question?
know you? Not when they meet you, no, of course not. But if you get to know someone,
Yeah.
I would think.
So, like, would somebody leave you? Like, I left Spike Lee thinking he did not like me.
I have no idea. Depends on the conversation, I guess. Every conversation's different. It's
Right.
it's what happens between two people.
How about Scorsese? Did you feel like he liked
I
you?
just saw him Saturday night actually at
Oh, really?
David Johansen's concert at Cafe Carlyle.
How was that?
It was a great concert.
And did you actually hang out with Martin Scorsese?
At the end, we chatted for a little bit. Yeah.
So do you
it
ever
was
feel
really
like
good.
you're okay? So you spend a lot of time with somebody when you're on a film set or something. Like you spent years with David Chase and everybody else on The Sopranos.
Right, many
You
years.
spent a long time, not as long, with everybody from Goodfellas and from Alex Inc. and from everything that you've
Right.
done. So what happens after? Do you kind of part ways? You think you're going to stay in touch? You don't stay in touch? Do you only stay in touch with the people? Or what? How does that work out?
I stay in touch with a lot of people from The Sopranos, but a lot of them I had already been friends with. Like 2 of the actors from the show I went to school with over here when I was a teenager. And a lot of the other actors I knew from before The Sopranos, from movies and plays and all kinds of stuff. So that was kind of a unique thing because it was, and I'm still in touch with a lot of them socially.
Like
but-
who specifically?
Well, I was in class with John Ventimiglia and Sharon Angela. John played Artie Bucco, the chef. Sharon played Rosalie April. I went to school with them. I've known them since I'm a kid. And we've done lots of stuff together, before and after, especially independent movies. The one movie that I wrote and directed, they're both in it. It's actually screening on Saturday at the Metrograph. But we've done a lot of stuff together, in a lot of indie movies and a lot of
Wait, what's
theater.
the screening at the Metrograph?
The Hungry Ghost. That
The
movie
Hungry
that I
Ghost,
wrote, yeah.
okay.
So that show was an exception. Most of the time, it's very weird. You work with someone, you get very close, and then like both actors and crew people and stuff, and then you may never see them again,
Yeah.
or you may see them 10 years later, or you may see them a year later. It's weird. It is kind of weird because for that time you're around each other so much, and sometimes being very intimate, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's
Nothing.
over.
Yeah.
And nothing. Sometimes you never see them again.
That's so weird.
It is weird.
But that's life too. Even maybe
That's
not
life,
in
too.
the intimate
Yeah.
setting that we're talking about, maybe not, but even so, that is life.
It is life. I mean, most people have jobs where they work with the same people for years and years and years, I guess, or it's the same thing for, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't know because I haven't done most jobs, but this job, yeah, it is like that.
Yeah. So who do you hang out with on your off time? Like, do you have like regular friends, old friends, your
Both,
wife?
Yeah. I have a lot of old friends. I have wife and kids. I have a lot of friends that I've known for many, many years. And some are from, you know, acting and stuff, and some are from show business, some are not, you know, some are other artists, musicians, and I have a lot of friends in the arts.
And you're in California now.
And New York.
Well, not
yeah.
right now. I say now.
No,
Obviously now you're
I've become
here
bi-coastal.
in New York.
I was lived in New York my whole life, and then I spent about 7 years living in Santa Barbara, California, where I still live, and now this year become bi-coastal officially. But
Wait, what do you mean officially? What does that mean? Did you buy a place here or something?
I rented a place here.
So did you rent for like a full year or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
And moved stuff, shipped stuff,
Okay.
and set up a home here. So, which I'm very happy about. But the thing is, you know, I mean, I lived in Santa Barbara, but I can't work in Santa Barbara outside of writing because there's no industry there for me. So I live there, but I also live on the road most of the time. Well, yeah, a lot of the time.
So
I
what
lived
is
in
it
Puerto
like?
Rico for almost a year.
Wait, really? Why?
In 15. I did a show there. I lived in Detroit for a year. I lived in Portugal for half a year. You know, so work takes you everywhere else. I lived in LA for half a year. So
Right. So even if you're going to LA and working, it's still a little schlep.
I rented a place. You can't commute every day from Santa Barbara's too far. You can go down for the day, but you can't commute every day. It's too
It
far.
would kill you.
Yeah, it's like 2.5 hours.
Right. So right now you're here. So you're not only here for just to shoot. You're here because you're bi-coastal now
Yes,
officially. But you are shooting something. Can we talk about that? You want to talk about it or no? Whatever you're shooting right now?
I shot a pilot for NBC, so I mean, you know, they're not good to talk about because
Are you gonna
there's a
jinx
good
it?
chance that there's a chance that no one will ever see it. So, but I'm here this week for I did a reading at the Public Theater on Saturday of Greek tragedies, which was really interesting, and then Wednesday I sent you that invitation with Lydia Lunch. I'm doing
That
a
was
reading.
you?
Well, I'm on the invitation.
Oh, I know. I was
Yeah.
like,
Well, who do you think sent?
who else
I'm
would
reading
it
from my
be?
book with a musician, a bass player behind me. And,
Do you understand my weird response now?
You didn't know it was myself?
No.
Okay. And then the screening is Saturday for the movie. So
Wait.
there's a bunch of
Screening is
stuff.
Saturday for what movie?
The movie I wrote and directed 10 years ago.
Oh.
So this week there was a lot happening. But I want to be bi-coastal because I want to do more theater. And I never really cracked the theater world in California. And theater is if you don't have a place to live in the place you're doing theater, it's very cost prohibitive because you don't get paid
Right.
anything, barely, if at all.
So you said you didn't crack the theater in LA.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you cracked the theater here?
Well, all my colleagues are here and people I work. My wife and I built a theater and we produced
That's
plays.
right,
So
that's right.
we have a lot of colleagues in theater here.
So you're going to start up with
And
theater
there's a lot.
now?
I just want to do plays as an actor.
So you
Maybe
wanna,
as a director too again.
But
yeah.
when I say you want to start up now, you want to start up acting in theater here in New
I
York
haven't acted
again.
in a play in a long time. Yeah.
How long?
7 years, I think. But the last year, as I've done a lot of events for my book and doing a lot of live readings on stage and kind of performing it, and it's whetted my appetite for more theater. Yeah.
So do you go around and you like a tour almost of a book
Yeah,
reading? So
I
you're not
have.
just opening up and reading one chapter. You're actually going through the whole book.
No.
Okay.
No. Sometimes longer than others. Usually it's that and a conversation at some of these book events and book fairs, book festivals,
Yeah.
literary festivals here and in Europe. Because a book came out in Italy and in France in those two languages. So I did it over there as well in some couple of cities in both countries.
How was
So
that?
that was amazing, yeah. In Rome, we did the Rome International Literary Festival, and it's at the Ancient Forum, which is
You mean the Forum?
not the Colosseum, the Forum.
Right.
Yeah.
I know what the Forum is.
Yeah, the
But you
Forum.
did it like outside there?
In the Basilica Maxentius, which is, the remains of a 2,000-year-old temple.
Right.
Which we did it there. They set up a stage underneath one of the giant arches. That's where my roots are in Rome. My family still, some of them are still there. Some of them came. So it was really a big deal.
Really? So you still
And they
have family
projected
there.
it in Italian on a screen, while I was reading in English.
That is very
great.
cool.
Yeah.
And there were probably plenty of people who were there who could understand English too.
Yeah, oh yeah. And then I did a festival in Salerno. They have a literary festival there. That was just awesome. And then in Paris, I did a few events, and in Lille, which is France on the border of Belgium. It's the largest bookstore in Europe, in Lille, France, of all places, and we did an event there.
Oh, okay.
And a lot here. Probably the best literary festival I've ever been to, and that a lot of people feel this, is called Calabash, which is in Jamaica. It's once every 2 years. And that was phenomenal.
What was so good about it?
Well, it's completely grassroots, not corporate sponsored, and yet there's 1,200 people at every event the whole weekend, and there's events, readings all day, poetry and literature and stuff all day long, and most of the night. And it's right, the stage is, behind the stage is the ocean, is the sea, Caribbean Sea. And it's mostly attended by people, Jamaicans,
It
and
is?
yeah, for the most part. They come for the weekend from all over the island. People come from other countries too, and the most responsive, attentive audience. And then there's, next to the stage, there's this field with all these food shacks and counters and all. None of it is corporate. It's all like local people and individual businesses. And then at midnight every night they have a party, like a dance party, music, bands, and it's just awesome.
That is cool.
It's incredible.
So was that going on?
That was in
your
June.
book? So you did go to that with your book.
Yeah, beginning of June, and it was awesome. And just the audiences, the people, they're so into it.
Yeah, that's cool. So you'll get back to theater. I feel like you're going to be in a play soon now.
I hope so. I don't have any plans now, but I've been putting out feelers here, and having some meetings, and eventually it'll.
And what does your wife do? Does she work in?
My wife and I built the theater, and we were artistic directors, but she is more in the design department, set design, interior design, that kind of stuff.
So does she come back and forth with
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, not always exactly together.
Yeah.
Sometimes like she's coming today for a few days, and yeah, for the most part.
And what about your kids? You have sons?
I have 3 kids. Only one left in the house who's 17. The other 2 are already moved on. They're older. So that was always the plan when they were done with school to be here more, but we just kind of sped it up.
So you wanted them to be in school or to grow up in California?
Not necessarily California, but just we reached a point where we didn't want to be in a big city.
Okay.
We kind of burnt out on raising kids in a big city, although most of their lives they were raised here. But
So in Manhattan you were?
Yeah, but I just kind of got overwhelmed. In 2012 we moved. We just wanted to be someplace small and quiet, which we did. It was very good for that.
So.
And nicer weather in the winter.
Right. So your 17-year-old, that was like what, middle school or something, moving out there?
No, he was 10.
Oh, right. Okay, 10. So it was just before. So it was a good moving time for him.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, I guess so.
And then will he come back out here too?
Sometimes. I mean, I don't know where he's going to go to college.
Uh-huh.
My daughter moved back here. She lives here, and she's my oldest. So we'll see.
What's your daughter like?
She's great. She's brilliant. She's a very smart kid. Smart, talented.
You have a good relationship with everybody?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, luckily.
Mm-hmm. 3 kids. How's that?
It's interesting now, because the nest keeps getting emptier, which is an interesting thing to happen because you spend, when you're raising kids, so much of your life is about that.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden it's not really that as much. And it's a little weird,
Kind of shakes you off your
Oh,
balance.
yeah, big time. Yeah, it shakes you off your balance.
If that's
In a good
term.
way, though.
You lose your equilibrium a little.
A little bit, but that's life.
Yeah. So what do you do when you're not thinking about work or the arts and whatever? What are you doing?
I don't have any hobbies, I'll be honest with you.
You have no hobbies?
No.
I hate the word hobby, though. It's so foolish.
I just don't, though. So, work is my hobby, really. I've always done a lot of work in addition to the stuff that people see. Like, you get hired to do a TV show or a movie and you get paid and that's your job and stuff like that. But a lot of the stuff I've done, haven't made money on,
Like what?
Like opening a theater, which costs you money basically in the end of the day. We tried not to have that happen, but it does, but, do, act in plays or stuff like that, or write and direct a movie, which, cost money. So a lot of the things that I've been very passionate about, you just do because you want to do them.
Yeah.
But that's what I've always done my whole life. It's not like something that happened later or something. So I'm really used to that.
Yeah, but it's nice when it can be like that because then your work can also be gratifying, even if it's not lucrative, because it's like your hobby. Or am I wrong?
I don't know. I don't know what it would be like having a hobby. I really don't know. Having this huge interest in something that's other than my work. I don't, outside of of course, family and raising kids. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about something you do.
Yeah. Are you ever bored?
Sometimes, yeah.
So when do you feel bored?
When I go too long without working, yeah. I need to keep working.
And what do you feel like when you're bored? What do you do with yourself?
Good question. I don't know. try to find some work. Try to get busy. I'm not good when I go too long without working.
Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
I don't know. Maybe both.
You should take that Myers-Briggs test. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't believe in those things. You're going to take a test and they're going to tell you what you are. It's like...
You're a combination.
Yeah, all that it's like to distill things, and then whose criterion is that? It's like they have these schools in New York. It's a big controversy now because the best public schools academically are, for years, the admissions is based on a test. Mm-hmm. And now the mayor's trying to change that, and the people who've always gotten in because they're good at the tests are pissed off because they're not going to get in.
Right.
Or whatever.
It's not only because they're good at the test, but they can afford generally to get tutors for the test. Is that what we're talking about here?
I don't know,
Okay.
not necessarily, but
Okay.
they've whoever it is a test, a measure of what somebody who's 13, what their potential is.
Well,
It's one aspect.
Yeah.
But it's been all or nothing in terms of the admissions. Taking that test, sure, it's an aspect of some academic intellectual capabilities, but it's not the sole measure of a kid. I think it should only be one aspect, one criterion, not the whole thing,
Well, a lot of colleges now are test optional.
Yeah, it's good.
So you don't have to take the
I think that's
SAT
great.
or the ACT because not everybody does well. Even
No.
it's not necessarily just one aspect, but some people actually have a lot of trouble taking tests.
Of course.
So.
And some people, their brains work differently, and their real gifts and talent are not applied in that kind of analytical whatever way. It's like they're more intuitive, or they're more artistic, or they're more emotional. You know, it's like, and all
Sure.
those things are important, you know?
Yeah. So how is this conversation for you? Tell me.
How, mean
Yes,
what?
reflect
Good or
on
bad?
it.
Good.
No.
It's a good conversation.
Well, I'll take good if we're going like
Yeah.
that. But tell me what this experience is for you.
Now we're not doing the conversation. We're talking about the
Oh,
conversation.
all right. Let me take that back.
We should just
then.
have the conversation.
We did have the conversation.
I thought we are having
We
it.
are having. See this right here? What's going on? It's the conversation because whatever your answer was to me just now was regular conversation.
Right.
So we're back to conversation
Yeah,
again.
good.
I took-
You know, when we had the theater, it was very interesting because theater in New York, you really need good reviews. They're really about
and like immediately,
reviews.
you could be shut down, right?
And awards, reviews
uh-huh.
and awards are good for business. That's really all they're good for. They're, you know, if you allow that to, you know, make you feel like you've done well, you're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
They're good for business. Good reviews. And we would do a play, and obviously we decided to do a play. We believed in it a lot because we had a lot of options of plays to do, and we were very selective. And then you put a lot of effort, and you hire people, and you put a lot of your heart and money into it. And some are better than others, obviously, but you believe in it. And then the reviews come out, and the funny thing was, from pretty much the same strata of critic. You'd have one person write something, it was an amazing piece of work, blah, 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 one person who just hated it. And that happened so often where you just realized, what does this mean?
Yeah,
You know
well,
what
it's
I mean?
subjective. Hello.
Of course.
Everybody's going to experience something. It's not, there is no objective good or bad.
No. I mean, there's some things that a lot of people subjectively like it, right? That still doesn't, because what I realized is you may just touch one person very profoundly, and nothing can mitigate that, you know?
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's huge.
That's meaningful.
That's very meaningful. you
More
know?
than approval. That's purpose almost.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
gratification.
And, someone may be going through something in their life that they see in a different perspective because something they see on the screen or on stage or on a page.
Do they tell you that?
Sometimes.
They do.
Probably more often not.
But probably a fraction of the people who experience that actually get
Maybe.
to the point of telling you,
Maybe.
too.
Yeah, most.
All right,
yeah,
so there's probably
very-
so many, like larger numbers of people
Yeah.
that have been impacted.
Yeah, and a lot of people aren't, you know, and sometimes things aren't, you know, they fall short in different aspects, but you know, you have to, you know, just stand by your stuff.
Yeah.
You know, your work.
Any regrets?
I miss people, you know, that have died, basically.
Really?
Yeah.
Like
I don't
who?
know if that's a regret, but I just miss one of my best friends lived around here. He had a restaurant that's still, the restaurant is still going on. Chez Josephine. His
Right on
name is
Restaurant Row.
Jean-Claude Baker. He was one of Josephine's adopted children, and I worked there. I worked for him when I was 21. I used to live in this neighborhood in the 80s, and then I worked there, and then I quit and didn't talk to him for a number of years, and then kind of reunited, and we were best friends for a long time, and he died 4 years ago. I miss him a lot. Yeah.
Do you think about him a lot, or
A
did
lot.
this bring it up for
miss-
you?
I think
coming
about him
here?
all the time. Because he was someone I'd go to when I was, you know, really going through personal difficulties and stuff. And not always for that, but, you know, I really miss him. And I miss my grandparents a lot. I miss Jim Gandolfini a lot. He was a really good friend. So, you know,
I
there's...
thought people didn't get to know him that well. Did I?
I knew him really well.
You did, personally.
We knew each other pretty well on the cast, the core group of actors there, yeah.
I feel like I talked to Edie Falco, and I remember she said
Well,
she
Edie
didn't really
hang
feel
out
like-
with Jim.
Oh,
Edie worked
okay.
an awful lot with Jim.
Yeah.
But we all hung out a lot together.
Okay, so you
The
just know him
guys,
very
it was
well.
a little more of a boys' club, going out and hanging out. Yeah.
Do your kids know you well?
They do, but you're always dad, you know what I mean? Like, you can't be cool.
Do they have any idea who you are?
They do, but like I
professionally?
said, it doesn't matter. You still can't be cool.
Did they watch The Sopranos?
Some of them did, yeah.
What did they think?
They like it, you know. I think they like it a lot. But, you know, you way above all that stuff, you're a dad.
Yeah.
Way above it.
So did they ever watch you as Spider in Goodfellas? Because
sure
that would
they've
be
all
so
seen
weird. Because you were
everything.
young then, too. Not that you're not young now, so I take that
I'm
back.
not young now. I'm old. I'm
That's not what
53. I'm not young. Definitely
It's
not
all
young.
relative, though. Don't you realize that when you're 85, you're going to be like,
Yeah.
what was I
I'll
talking
show
about?
you something. My dad just gave me this. So, like, my parents are packing their house because they're moving. And
Where do your parents live?
they live in Mount Vernon, New York.
Oh, they're
So
still in Mount Vernon where you grew up.
So I didn't know that this even existed.
I like the colors of your phone.
That is 1985 in the basement of Exterminator Chili Restaurant.
I don't even know what I'm looking at
in
right
Tribeca.
now. Where, are you in this picture?
That's me at 19.
What?
And that's Iggy Pop in the basement of my restaurant where I was a cook. He was filming MTV guest VJ, and they filmed in the basement. And they said, why don't you show Iggy how to chop onions? So my dad had this picture, and I didn't even know there was a picture. I'm like, but the funny thing is, so now that restaurant, it's on the corner of Church and Walker Street. It was, right? It only lasted in the 80s, and it's been a bunch of things since then. But now it's a place called Belle Rev. My daughter works there, which I find hilarious.
No way.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
I love that. That is so cool. Are you ever at the point where you feel like, what if I never get a gig again?
I feel like that all the time.
Still.
Everybody, all actors, and I talk to actors all the time, and they all feel that way.
Yeah, I've heard that from a lot,
When you go through a drought,
too.
and they say, you know, what if, you know, it's always happens, and then something happens, and you get a job. It's horrible.
Any regrets being an actor? Would there be?
No,
No, not at all.
No, definitely not.
All right, this may be a question you've been asked before, but I feel like it's a good closing question.
Mm-hmm.
So, what would you tell like a teenage version of yourself if you could go back in time?
I don't know. Be kinder to yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself.
And what do you think your 85-year-old self would say to you?
Don't be so hard on yourself. Be kind to yourself. Exactly the same.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you very much. That was a lot of fun.
That was great.